Hello beautiful people, welcome to yet another Halo related video. I promise this is the last one for a little while. Next week's video is going to be something else. You know, I didn't even realize this was like the 4th Halo video in a row until someone in my server pointed it out. But don't worry, next week's video will actually be about something brand new, so stay tuned. Anyway, this week we are talking about the UNSC from Halo versus the Automatons from Helldivers 2. The UNSC was probably the hardest thing to talk about for this video. I really struggled to think of which part of the timeline to pull them out of, but I think I got enough of this figured out. I'm going to try and use the UNSC either directly before or very early on into the Human Covenant War. I'm not super well versed in this part of the timeline, so please, if I get anything wrong, correct me in the comments. I'm not sure how many units the UNSC would have at this time, but I've seen estimates sitting comfortably in the 100 millions. So for the sake of me going to bed at a reasonable time, and not staying up past 1 AM doing research and writing the very script I'm reading, I've decided to go with that number. This is something that happens almost every night now, yes. I believe that at this time, the UNSC would have had a few thousand warships at the ready. Some of these warships include frigates, destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and so on. These ships are armed to the teeth with weapons like autocannon turrets, defense guns, missile launchers, and the MAC or magnetic accelerator cannon. The MAC cannon specifically is the most noteworthy weapon in the UNSC Navy, hitting Covenant ships with 64 kilotons of TNT. To complement these naval cruisers, the UNSC has fighters and bombers, such as the Naval, Baselard, Longsword, Short Sword, and Booster Frame, which was explicitly used by Spartan operatives to intercept and destroy enemy bombers and fighters. The UNSC also had air vehicles used primarily for supporting troops on the ground, like the Hornet, Honeybee, Kestrel, Nightingale, Pelican, and Falcon. Speaking of ground units, the UNSC made use of well-trained soldiers in on-the-ground combat such as Army Troopers, Marines, ODSTs, and of course the heavily armored and augmented Spartans. All the UNSC will have at this point in the timeline are Spartan 2s, plus Johnson, who was a product of the Orion project if you want to get specific. Spartan 2s at this point in time were earlier incarnations of their famous Mjolnir armor and were not yet equipped with energy shields. The UNSC got those energy shields from reverse engineered Covenant technology, but the Covenant aren't showing up in this timeline, so the UNSC won't have access to that tech for the scenario. To assist the ground units in their efforts, the UNSC also deploys ground vehicles, such as the Scorpion tank, Grizzly tank, Cobra, Gremlin, Elephant, Warthog, Rocket Hog, Gosshog, Mongoose/Gungoose, and so on. Overall, the UNSC is small in size, but they are a formidable fighting force. But will they be formidable enough to survive a large-scale invasion from the freedom-hating automatons? The Automatons from Helldivers 2 are one of the many ferocious fighting forces in the galaxy currently taking part in the Second Galactic War. The Automaton military force consists of what is likely to be trillions of evil communist robots. Unlike what we did for the UNSC, we'll be taking the Automatons as they are right now. Bots, as of today, that being January 21st, 2026, have 26 planets under their control on the galactic map. We do know it is very likely that they have more planets outside of our known space, but we don't know how many planets they have. To give us a general estimate of how many planets they have, I decided to add 13 to the 26 planets because 13 is half of 26. This leaves us with 39 total planets under the control of the Automatons in this hypothetical scenario. So, for the scenario, we'll be saying the Automatons are invading the Halo universe. The Automatons would have started out of the UNSC's reach with 13 planets colonized and turned into factory worlds used for pumping out bots and ensuring that they had the numbers and resources necessary for all-out war. After they had everything ready, they would have revealed themselves and surprise attacked the UNSC, invading the planets that would have had the least military resistance first, all in a quick time frame, meaning they quickly took 36 planets with minimal resistance because the UNSC was simply not ready for such a large offensive. The goal of the Automatons is to wipe out the UNSC, and the goal of the UNSC is to push the Automatons out of their territory and then wipe them out for good. First, let's talk about ground combat. The automatons have units such as troopers, commissars, berserkers, devastators of different variants, and hulks. They also have different branches of units with different specializations, such as the jet brigade, which consists of bots equipped with jetpacks, and the incineration corps, which consists of bots that specialize in pyrotechnic weaponry. To complement the automaton ground units, they will have many vehicles supporting them with suppressive and heavy firepower. These vehicles are deployed en masse, and they include striders of different variations, war striders, factory striders, and tanks that are armed with different weapons that are useful for different scenarios. The automatons also make use of dropships and gunships. When the automatons conquer a planet, they quickly cover the planet in forward operating bases and fortresses that contain many different strategic targets, such as orbital cannons, anti-air emplacements, jamming towers, air bases that construct and repair automaton dropships, and plenty of fabricators. Speaking of fabricators, I think we need to talk a little about the automatons and their industrial capabilities. Some people believe that the automaton fabricators are used to produce the vast majority of their troops. I personally believe this is far from the truth. Someone I've responded to before, that being Ruger Rabbit, has, in a response to me, said that a single automaton world would produce 3 trillion bots a day. That is a single automaton world, not even taking into account any of the other planets they have. If we take all 39 planets into account, this should mean the automatons could produce over 100 trillion bots a day. To put it into perspective, the Second Galactic War has lasted about 2 years at this point, meaning that by now, the automatons should theoretically have over 80 quadrillion units at their disposal. This is of course not counting the billions of bots that have been killed over the course of the war, but A, those bots have likely been replaced by now if the automatons have the industrial capacity to build over 100 trillion units a day, and B, I don't think a few billion dead bots is going to put a large scratch in quadrillions of soldiers. Super Earth has billions of troops at their disposal. Maybe we could push them to the low trillions, if we're being generous. But there's no way in hell that Super Earth could actually fend off the automatons if they really do have over 80 quadrillion bots at their disposal, especially considering they're currently tied up trying to fend off 3 different enemies on 3 different fronts at once. So they couldn't even focus all of their firepower on the automatons because they literally just can't. Furthermore, this is a weird little thing I think I found. If the automatons don't use larger factories and instead create the bulk of their units using the fabricators, why on Super Earth are the jet brigade factories concentrated on one planet? If they relied on larger factories, then this would make perfect sense. But if they actually use fabricators to build the bulk of their armed forces, this would just make the automatons a bunch of morons. Why would they concentrate all of their jet brigade fabricators to one planet when they could spread them all around their territory and not risk losing an entire sub-faction if one planet gets taken? This, yet again, to me, further implies that the automatons do not rely on fabricators to construct their armed forces. Also, what about vehicles? Why don't we see vehicles or striders being produced by fabricators? Why don't we see heavy fabricators that produce war striders? This, yet again, implies that there are larger, more important factory worlds that have big-ass factories that do the bulk of the building for them. In my opinion, this is just all evidence that the automatons rely on larger factories to construct the majority of their armed forces. The idea of the automatons building over 100 trillion bots a day and currently having over 80 quadrillion bots in use right now is just not a thing that I think makes any sense whatsoever. There's no way Super Earth could compare to an industry like that. So what do I think fabricators are used for? Well, I think fabricators are used to reinforce units on the front lines. I think fabricators usually remain offline and inactive unless there's a battle nearby and the automaton units in that battle need a quick and local supply of reinforcements. This is an engine limitation, but I think this is supported by the fact that in-game, fabricators are not activated until you, the Helldiver, gets close enough to be spotted or sound the alarm. Fabricators are for reinforcing local units or producing units in quick succession, in hopes that they can defend an outpost or fortress that is currently under attack. I think it is absolutely insane and bonkers and ridiculous to assume that the automatons would have over 80 quadrillion units at their disposal. That's just not feasible in this scenario. The automatons likely don't have the industry for that because they literally can't, or else Super Earth would lose very quickly. Anyway, now that I've covered my thoughts on that, let's talk about the automatons and their naval capabilities. Ha! You thought we knew anything about that? No, you're stupid. Arrowhead thinks you don't deserve lore, you silly goose. All we know about the automaton navy is that they have this ship right here. That's all we have. All I can say is that I think it's reasonable to assume that automaton ships and UNSC ships would be able to damage each other, and the automatons possibly have more ships than the UNSC. If they have trillions of bots, they probably have a good enough industry to build more ships than the UNSC's 2,000. There's also no reason to assume the bot ships would have shields. We've never seen any automaton ground units using energy shielding tech, so why would we just assume that they have it on a larger naval scale? The Illuminate have shields on just about everything, and those shields are very visible. Super Earth has shields on an individual unit scale. Helldivers can be equipped with shield packs, bubbles, and directional shields. But there's no evidence to believe Super Destroyers, for example, have any shielding. We see Super Destroyers get shot down, but we never see any kind of shield breaking effect that would imply they have any. But overall, I think bot ships and UNSC ships would fare just fine against each other. But what about a verdict? This is probably going to be a surprise to you guys just as much as it was to me, but I think this could actually be a tie. I kept leaning back and forth on who would win for different reasons, but now I think it could actually be a pretty matched fight. Both sides will be capable of damaging and killing each other just fine. If you want to see me go into detail about why I don't think the automatons aren't very smart on an individual level, watch this video here. This one's already long enough in my opinion. But the UNSC is going to have troops and leadership too that are far more intelligent and crafty. The big reason as to why the UNSC was going to lose the war against the Covenant was because of how much more technologically advanced the Covenant were. They had shields and glassing beams that the UNSC couldn't combat well enough. The automatons don't have those. I really doubt the automatons can just glass planets with their ships, because if they can, then why don't they just do that? Honestly, I don't think any faction in the game can glass planets. Super Destroyers simply don't have the armament for that. Some people love to throw around this line that is stated in the game, but I think this isn't very impressive. This specifically says small moons. The smallest moon in our galaxy is like about 7 miles across. That's not very big, and certainly isn't enough firepower to actually glass a planet. If Super Destroyers could glass planets, then why don't they just glass battlefields instead of sending Helldivers down to die repeatedly? It's not like Helldivers factions aren't willing to destroy planets either. The Illuminate were willing to destroy planets by throwing a black hole at them. Super Earth literally just built a Star of Peace and finished using it on an automaton world. These factions are 100% willing to destroy planets. So if they had the ability to do that on a wider scale, they would, but they don't. So obviously bot ships can't just glass UNSC planets like the Covenant ships can. Bots are going to prioritize ground combat as they already do within the universe of Helldivers. I also think the bots would excel in ground combat simply due to their sheer size. They'll overwhelm the UNSC very quickly on the ground if they launch large offensives. The only edge the UNSC might have is in naval combat because we know they have a larger variety of ships and fighters. Overall, I think the automatons could win in an all-out war just due to their sheer size. They could overwhelm the UNSC if they don't get their shit together and continue to fight them conventionally and head-on. On the other hand, the UNSC could win if they play it smart and rely on unconventional war tactics, prioritizing strategic targets instead of facing the bots head-on constantly. But what do you think? Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Suggest any other matchups you'd like to see in the future. Maybe I should talk about the UNSC versus the Illuminate, or the UNSC versus the Terminids. That'd be pretty cool, yeah? And maybe the Covenant versus the Illuminate, which is totally not something I've had planned and in my mind for a while now. No, not at all. Definitely. I would never think of such a thing. If you're interested, you can go ahead and join my Discord server, where we like to talk about things that are related to the things on my channel. If not, if you don't want to join, that's okay too. Fine, yeah. But if you enjoyed this video, go ahead, like, subscribe if you haven't already. Share it around with people, hype it, whatever the hell that means. And I will see you guys in the next one. Boy, oh boy, am I tired of talking about Halo and Helldivers. I'm taking a break from those two franchises. I'm taking a break, okay? I'll see you next week. Hit something! Hit the thing! Why won't you hit anything? Hit something. Blast that piece of junk out of the sky. Come on. Where I need my... My video evidence. Hit a ship. Hit a super destroyer. Come on. They can't hit us. This must be a testament to... Oh, wait. Oh. Well, I didn't see that. I didn't get to see it. They finally hit one, and I didn't get to record it like I wanted to. That is... Wow. I appreciate that. What the hell was that? Big shadow. Did they hit another one? Why are they hitting them when I can't? Why? Stop hitting them when I'm not looking! Stop!